Do you remember the barbed wire match between Sabu and Terry Funk?
I saw that.
Yeah,
It was on pay per view for the World
yeah,
Championship. The guy
yeah,
tangled in so bad that Terry Funk almost had his neck sliced and almost died in that match.
yeah.
Yeah, he got tangled so bad, couldn't get himself tangled out. At the end of the match, they had to sit still, snap, snap. It took like 5-10 minutes to have all the wire, so both wrestlers wouldn't kill themselves.
Yeah.
Both wrestlers could have got killed that night if they kept moving at the end of the match with all the barbed wire around them. They could have killed themselves easily in the match.
Yeah.
They said
They
nope, and they
they
went to steps.
yeah,
They're
and
all in the. Terry Funk almost got killed in that match.
there was another legendary spot in that match where Sabu had severed his bicep and he taped it
That was,
up
yeah,
just
that
so
was
he could
part of the main
finish.
thing. Like I said, he got cut in several places.
Yeah,
Not just the arm, but a lot of things got cut, and he could have died in it if he hit a
yeah,
major error. Luckily, he didn't hit a major error.
yeah.
That was good.
So
Both of them could have got killed in that match. Like I said, that's the last time you've seen that type of match in ECW.
yeah,
After
so
that,
Sabu passed away.
Bats.
Yeah, so Sabu passed away this week or last week
Yep.
in the middle of our recordings and things. And news broke out while I was doing the edits of it.
Right.
So a lot of people are pinpointing his retirement match 3 weeks prior to his death.
Oh, that drug thing. Well, Sabu always did drugs. Van Dam said he always did drugs. No one forced him. He always did drugs.
Yeah, but
That's how he
I
kept
don't
going.
think it's really the
That's
drugs.
how he numbed himself in the ring.
Yeah,
Most of
I
the
don't
time,
think
not
it's the
killing anyone.
drugs that they were saying that.
No, I don't think it was either. I think it was, you know, it's getting older. He couldn't do it
The
anymore.
intensity of the match. When it comes to Sabu's retirement match, we're not just talking about the drug issue or
Right,
anything.
right.
We're talking about the intensity of the match because people are replaying the match and seeing all these spots that Sabu did that could have possibly influenced on his heart attack and things that
Yep,
he lost his life on.
right.
So, um, spots that would include going through the barbed wire table, getting his head stuck in the barbed wire bed or trampoline or wherever it was, going
Mm-hmm.
through the barbed wire rope. It was a good send off for him. Um, the match concept itself was a good send off for him because of everything that he did in his career. Um, but the retirement matches are really um, they really need to rehearse and go through these matches before actually going in front of the crowds. Because a lot
Sabu
of
did not like to do that.
yeah,
He did not like to do that. He
yeah.
wanted to just
So
go.
a lot of these retirement matches, if you've noticed, especially with the Ric Flair matches,
Right.
they have not been up to par with everything. This one
Yeah.
was not his best match by any
No,
means.
he's getting older. He couldn't do a lot of
Yeah,
spots anymore. His body can't take it.
yeah, yeah. So the
Uh-huh.
bad thing with retirement matches right now with all these older wrestlers,
They'll stay retired. They always come back for one more match.
either they either don't stay retired, they want to make up for that bad match, or something else happens,
One more
or
match or something like that.
they just show their age on it and they're like, yeah, this is just
Yeah.
really bad. So
Okay. One of my thoughts about Sabu. Okay, briefly. Sabu was always an independent, basically. A lot of people didn't like working with him because he's too violent until he got in Japan where he honed his craft. Back in Japan, they had all violent matches, or all those matches were real. They weren't fake. They used to C4 explosives. They used to do nails, barbed wire. They did every violent thing they could ever think of to get the fans in the ring, besides the wrestling.
yeah,
Well, NWA found out about Sabu and brought him in. But at first, he was brought in by 911 on like a sort of journey because he's supposed to be wild and untamed, stuff like that, which was Eastern wrestling. But then we can ECW, we got more control. And then he did a lot more spontaneous. He did many matches for ECW. Not many because it's so violent, so high flying. He did a lot of matches. He's the one that invented the tables. He's the one that invented the chairs and the fire and the barbed wire and everything else he brought from Japan. At that time, no one was doing like they do today. Sabu never gets credit for that. He's the one that brought them in and invented them himself, not the Dudleys, not Edge and Christian. No, those were afterwards. He brought stuff that no one's ever seen before. That's what people wanted to see. That's why he tuned in ECW to see what he was going to do next. But we didn't even let Japanese tapes, only trade tapes, and people trade tapes and stuff like that back then. But then he became more of a wrestler than a violent guy later on. He did still high flying, but he did many violent matches after that Terry Funk barbed wire match. He'll never did that again in barbed wire ring. He'll use like baseball bats and all that, so they won't get almost got killed. Basically turned to more of a wrestler later on towards the end of ECW. He wasn't as violent. But then after that, WCW hired him, didn't like him. After about 2, 3 matches, took him off the air. WCW tried, WWE tried with him, but Vince wasn't into that style at the time. You know, he already had the stuff he needed. He was interested in Sabu, so he went to Independence, made a name there, and then he started showing up in other organizations like Impact and AEW, just to continue his path, basically. Keep not people forgetting him. At the time, he was out wrestling for a long time because he had a severe broken neck that almost killed him. That's why he stayed out wrestling for a long time. His neck healed. Then he came back. Then his last match, the wrestler said, "Oh, he's doing sports enhancing drugs."
JBL.
He helped a lot of wrestlers in their careers. When they're in ECW, he kind of helped them out too, give them bigger.
Yeah.
Give
JBL is another one.
More things to do.
Yeah.
If he liked you, if he didn't like you, he wouldn't talk to you at all.
Yeah. JBL, you see him in the ring and he does all these antics in the ring. You talk to him as a fan in person, he's actually very approachable in things and will tell you the ins and outs of everything. I even talked to him about his bullying accusations, and he says, "Well, first off, you got to know where you draw the line at as a heel or anything." And
not to go too far. I remember him when he was wrestling in Independence.
Yeah,
and it's a Justin Hawk Bradshaw, which name came to the ring with me. That was his name in the Independence, Justin Hawk Bradshaw.
Yeah,
he's briefly in Global. You see a tape of him like 1 or 2 episodes. He's in there for WWE yanked him.
Yeah. So
that's how I first saw him.
Yeah. So one of the things that I talked to him about was when you're backstage, a lot of the wrestlers like to play pranks and things. He was a prankster like Owen Hart was. So
a lot of them are pranksters. Mr. Fuji was a prankster.
Yeah. So
I'm a prankster.
So when I brought that up to him, he was like, "I'm glad that you understand it more so than a lot of others." Because when you go backstage and things, you gotta have thick skin. You gotta have thick skin.
Yeah, you gotta know between character and real person, unless they bring the reality to the ring.
Yeah.
And that's when you ought to thick skin no more, and then the locker room and the owners take over and you can complain to them.
Yeah. Now, when I talked to him about the issue with him and the other commentator for NXT, he said, "Yeah, that was a big, big misunderstanding. A lot of people were pointing the finger at me because of my history, but in reality, it was
he's just learning the basics. He didn't learn how to do what kind of his work. He just learned the basics. He's still a wrestler, but he's trying to transition. So it's harder transition than some wrestlers and commentators.
Yeah, but Marco actually just had an anxiety attack. That was nothing related to JBL, nothing related to anything. He just had a small.
He freaked out.
He had an anxiety attack that was not even related to anything that was going on, but all the internet rumors were pointing at JBL to where Triple H had to get involved, and he just immediately called him and said, "Hey, do you have an issue with me?" No, no, we don't.
Well, basically, also he was watching. They watched the stuff in the grill position. Anything happens out there,
Yeah,
he called them. They looked at the monitor. They saw what was going on. Boom, we got out there because he watches everything
yeah,
around the ring. The commentators, the wrestlers, the fans, everybody.
yeah,
Because that's why they have monitors in the back. Anything happens, they can get the guys out there quickly
yeah, yeah.
to stop it
So
from happening. Of
yeah,
course. That's what they
and
do now. Back then, they didn't have only one monitor for the match, nothing else. But now you got
yeah,
so many monitors because of injuries happening and stuff like that. Like
yeah,
Jerry Lawler's heart attack after that match.
yeah. That
Todd
became
tried to talk to him. Hello. Yeah. Todd tried to talk to him. Hello, hello. That's when they knew something was wrong.
yeah.
It
That's
broke
when
out.
you know wrestling goes from
Goes
script
real. You never know what's
goes
going
to
to happen.
real.
Like I said,
Yes,
you never know
yes,
what's going to happen.
yeah, yeah. So
How
um,
about wrestling? How about wrestling related deaths? People blame stuff wrestling during their careers when they die. I give some examples. You don't own heart. How about Brian Pillman after his accident with his ankle and he did all drugs till his death? What
a
do you think
lot of
about that?
people blame the drugs on there, but after the
He took a
autopsy
lot,
came out,
he took a lot of sports. He took steroids. He took a lethal combination the night before the pay-per-view he was supposed to wrestle. That's how he died. He mixed wrong stuff together without thinking. And
autopsy shows that he died of a heart attack. So
yeah, but
um,
also they found some substances he did a few nights before a mixture. Drug test, he survived it, but then he died a few days later. He had a
yeah,
mixture. According to sources, he had a mixture cocktail of the wrong drugs, but he
yeah,
survived it. You know how he
yeah,
did? But then his body started giving up after that.
yeah,
The heart attack occurred because he's doing too much of that stuff.
yeah,
And like Louis Spicolli, he's an indie wrestler. No one knew him until he got to ECW. He started to get a path to become popular. He was supposed to be in a WWE match with another wrestler with Brian Pillman that night. He was supposed to push Louis Spicolli over that night of the pay-per-view. But then after he died, Louis went to ECW, wrestled there a while, then he quietly died. Don't
yeah,
know what, but he died. He died a few months after that. I don't
yeah,
know, from suicide or heart attack. But he's
yeah,
getting a good career in WWE until Brian died.
yeah,
Then Vince gave up on
yeah.
him. Like I said, like he's trying
There,
to push
there
things. Sometimes
was,
things happen like this. The Owen Hart incident, Owen didn't want to do it in the first place. Vince kind of forced him.
yeah, yeah. There's been
That's the way that
several
person.
instances where wrestlers have died in the ring.
Yep, I can know a
Um,
couple.
the
I know a
Mexican
couple.
wrestler that wrestled Rey Mysterio several years ago is a big example. Um, where
He didn't take care of himself. That was the reason.
yeah, yeah, it was about attempts and things. Ray,
He didn't do it right, and he ran
yeah,
around.
yeah,
That's what happens.
yeah,
Two I remember. Two I know. One time was I didn't remember the first one we talked about, but I heard a hearsay. But Teddy, his father was a wrestler. He was in a match, and he died right in the ring after a big slam. He died of a heart attack. He
yeah,
lay in the ring, and no one knew what happened to him until
yeah,
about 5 10 minutes later that he was dead in the ring, and referee
yeah.
knew it, and the
There,
people were out there. And
yeah,
then the Japanese woman that started her career out injured herself in the ring in back in the 90s and died right in the ring after a botched miss. She was in starting for her career.
yeah,
The other wrestler botched it accidentally because she slipped.
yeah,
And then the
yeah.
draws, well, it wasn't dead, but someone threw something in the ring, and D'Lo injured him. An accident.
Accident. Yeah,
It was a couple. It was a couple. According
they
to him, it was a cup of
they
coffee.
never blamed each
He
other on
slipped.
that.
No, it was a cup of coffee. Saw on the footage. He slipped on it.
Yeah,
Like anybody can do anything wrong and stuff
yeah,
like that.
yeah,
Like the John Cena got hit with a bottle a few weeks ago by a fan.
yeah,
Like I said, these fans
uh,
take this too seriously.
yeah.
That
So
proves this right there.
yeah, and there was also another wrestler who actually died in the ring in the middle of the match and still won the match because he had died right as he was covering the other guy. And
Mm-hmm.
um, you go back and watch that match, you can see that they immediately saw that something was wrong with
Mm-hmm.
them. And they went ahead and did the pinfall um, and did it that way. Um, Another one is La Parca when he died. He died in the match. I forget if he won or lost that one.
Well, that was the first Parker,
Yeah, the first one.
not the one we know. That before he died. He trained the guy, and he said, "You'll be the new Parker
Yeah,
if anything happens to me." And he came, and then the Parker came. Another second, the Parker was Junior at first, but then he got to Junior and went to Parker afterwards. I knew it was the same wrestler.
yeah,
No one heard of the original Parker because he never was in the States. When he came to the States, he used the name
yeah,
to tribute to him as a different wrestler. A lot of these wrestlers do that sometimes. You know, I've never heard these wrestlers, and then they come first time, then usually you find out there's another person named that wrestling name, and then you find out. Like Rey Mysterio, for example. He went with Rey Mysterio Jr. time because his uncle was
yeah,
Rey Mysterio. Everybody's heard of him. His uncle. This is uncle wrestled States a few times. Then
yeah,
years later, he dropped the Junior in his name. Just to
yeah,
do it, years later, just to do the tribute
yeah.
to his uncle. A lot of
So
people don't know these things. If they're not into AAA wrestling, they're going to learn about it at the NXT pay per view coming up. It's mostly going to be AAA
yeah,
wrestling, nothing else.
yeah. So
But NXT matches know nothing in June. It's going to be straight Lucha Libre AAA. You're going to see stuff you've probably never seen before that they didn't do much in the States.
yeah. Other than that, this has been the Jedi 08, also known as Jeremy's the J Guillory.
Fun bites the dust.
And this has been the Broken Turnbuckle Podcast. Thank you and good night.